As Rex's barks echoed off the terminal walls, travelers turned in alarm. His usual discipline had vanished, replaced by a frantic urgency Officer Mark had never witnessed before. Every muscle in the German shepherd's body was rigid, his gaze unshakably fixed on the pregnant woman across the room. She seemed unaware, calmly walking with one hand on her belly until Rex surged forward, claws scraping against the floor, nearly slipping free from Mark's grip. "Ma'am," Mark called out, cutting through the rising tension. The woman stopped, startled, her eyes wide, as she looked from the snarling dog to the approaching officer. "Why is your dog barking at me?" she asked, her voice shaky. Mark didn't answer right away. He trusted Rex's instincts more than most people he knew. And something invisible, unspoken, had triggered him. Whatever it was, Mark knew one thing: this wasn't an accident. Rex had sensed something no one else could. Mark gently guided the visibly shaken woman toward the security office, with Rex trotting close behind his eyes, never leaving her. The dog's usual calm obedience had turned into something far more intense, as if each step carried the weight of an urgent warning. Inside the small room, the woman clutched her belly and looked nervously around, her breaths shallow and uneven. Rex paced near the doorway, growling softly, his body still tense, every instinct on high alert. Mark had seen Rex react to weapons, explosives, even panicked crowds, but this was different. "We're just being cautious," Mark said gently, trying to reassure her, though doubt crept into his own voice. As the other officers prepared to scan her belongings, unease filled the room like static in the air. Rex growled again, deeper. This time his eyes locked on the woman's face. Mark's gut twisted. Something was coming. Something they couldn't yet see. Just as tension reached its peak, the woman suddenly gasped and clutched her abdomen. Her eyes widened in pain, and her face turned ashen. "I don't feel right," she whispered, her voice cracking. Mark's instincts kicked in. He rushed to her side as she collapsed into the chair, her breaths shallow and erratic. One officer fumbled with his radio, calling urgently for medical assistance. Rex, once barking furiously, now growled, with a protective edge circling the woman and blocking anyone from getting too close. "What's happening?" another officer asked, but Mark was already kneeling beside her, his hands hovering in hesitation. The woman cried out again, gripping her stomach. "It's too soon. Please help me." In that instant, Mark realized the truth. Rex hadn't sensed a threat. He had sensed distress, medical, urgent, and invisible to everyone else. And now, every second mattered. The dog hadn't been warning them about danger. He had been begging them to save her. The atmosphere shifted the moment paramedics pushed through the crowd. One dropped to his knees beside the woman, scanning her vitals as she clutched her belly, trembling in pain. Sweat beaded on her forehead, and her breath came in short gasps. "She's going into premature labor," the medic announced, urgency sharp in his tone. "We have to move now." Mark's heart pounded. Rex, sensing the gravity of the moment, stopped barking, but stayed pressed to her side, his eyes scanning everyone who came close. As they wheeled her toward the ambulance, the German shepherd trotted alongside like a silent sentinel. For the first time since it began, the pieces clicked. Rex hadn't acted out, he'd acted ahead. He'd felt what humans couldn't see, heard what medicine hadn't yet caught. By the time the ambulance door slammed shut, Mark stood stunned. A dog had just read a life-or-death emergency and answered it before anyone else. As the ambulance sped away, Mark stood frozen, his mind racing to process what had just unfolded. Around him, fellow officers exchanged wide-eyed glances, whispers swelling with disbelief. One senior officer approached, his voice steady but filled with awe. "We need to talk about what just happened," he said, nodding toward Rex, who now sat calmly but watchfully by the door as if waiting for news. This wasn't just instinct. That dog saved her life. Mark nodded slowly, emotion rising in his throat. He had trained with Rex for years, who trusted him in high-stress operations, but today had rewritten everything he thought he knew. Rex hadn't just protected a woman. He had predicted a silent emergency, acted with precision, and never once hesitated. As Mark knelt beside his partner, he whispered, "You knew before any of us." The truth was undeniable. Rex wasn't just a canine officer. He was a guardian with a gift science couldn't explain. Days later, Mark received an update from the hospital. The woman and her premature baby had both survived thanks to Rex's timely alert. The doctors were stunned. Had they arrived even 30 minutes later, the outcome could have been tragic. But what haunted Mark most wasn't the danger, it was the why. Why had Rex, a trained security canine, fixated so urgently on a woman who posed no visible threat? Mark reviewed the footage, retraced every step, and spoke with medics. The conclusion was both simple and extraordinary. Rex had detected a change in her scent, hormonal distress, rising cortisol, perhaps something even subtler, something no human could sense. It wasn't just training, it was connection. Somehow in that crowded airport, Rex had heard what no one else did, a silent call for help, buried beneath calm appearances. For Mark, that moment redefined everything. From now on, Rex's instincts wouldn't just be followed, they would be trusted without question. In the following weeks, the story of Rex spread far beyond the airport walls. News stations aired segments titled, "Canine Dog Detects Crisis Before It Happens," and social media overflowed with praise for the heroic German Shepherd who saved 2 lives without ever speaking a word. Medical professionals weighed in, many expressing awe at the dog's sensitivity to early labor distress signals. But for Mark, it wasn't about headlines. He'd seen something deeper that day, a glimpse into the mysterious bond between animals and humans, one that defies logic yet proves itself in moments of crisis. The woman, now recovering with her newborn in the NICU, personally requested to see Rex again. When they met, her hands trembled as she stroked his fur, whispering, "You knew. You knew before I did." Rex leaned into her touch, calm, dignified, as if he understood the weight of what he had done. Airport officials later held a small ceremony where Rex was awarded a special commendation for his extraordinary service. But Mark knew that no medal could ever capture what Rex had accomplished. This wasn't just a canine doing his job, this was compassion in its purest, most instinctive form, and it changed them all forever. Later that evening, as the terminal slowly returned to normal, Mark sat beside Rex in the quiet of the break room, still processing everything that had happened. The woman and her baby were safe, but the emotional weight lingered. "You saw what none of us did," Mark whispered, resting a hand on Rex's back. The dog glanced up, his eyes steady, almost human in their depth. Word had already reached headquarters, and senior officers were calling the incident unprecedented. A medical specialist confirmed later that the woman had suffered a rare and dangerous condition, one that left untreated could have been fatal for both her and the baby. Rex had sensed it before any machine or monitor ever could. Mark realized that while protocol trains a handler, it's trust that forges the bond. And Rex, through pure instinct and heart, had proven that sometimes the best judgment doesn't come from training, it comes from love. In the days that followed, news of Rex's extraordinary act spread far beyond the airport. Headlines praised the German Shepherd who detected a medical crisis before any human could. Doctors, animal behaviorists, and news anchors marveled at his unexplainable instincts. But for Mark, it wasn't about fame. It was about the life they saved the mother who would now hold her baby because Rex had refused to stay silent. The department held a small ceremony presenting Rex with a commendation for bravery. Cameras flashed, but Rex remained humble, resting quietly beside Mark. Airport travelers began recognizing the duo, with children pointing and calling him the hero dog. Still, none of it changed the bond between handler and K9. They returned to patrol as always, but now with deeper trust. Because that day, Rex didn't just act as a security dog. He became something greater, a silent guardian who proved that loyalty, love, and instinct can save lives. As Mark sat alone in the break room that night, watching Rex sleep soundly by his feet, he couldn't shake the memory of the woman's face, pale, terrified, but alive. He reached down gently, scratching behind Rex's ears. "You knew," he whispered, "before any of us did." In that quiet moment, Mark understood something profound. Sometimes the most powerful warnings don't come from sirens or scanners, but from the silent urgency in a loyal partner's eyes. Rex had reminded them all that instinct, when trusted, could be the line between tragedy and a miracle. One of the most powerful lessons from this story is the value of trusting instincts and silent loyalty, especially from those who cannot speak. Rex the German Shepherd reminded us that true awareness doesn't always come from machines or human logic, but sometimes from a deeper emotional connection that transcends training. For older audiences who have seen life's unpredictability, this story reinforces the idea that intuition and compassion often reveal truths that facts alone cannot. Whether it's a dog sensing danger or a loved one quietly noticing our pain, we must never dismiss the silent signals around us. In a world rushing to measure and explain everything, this story calls us to pause, listen, and believe, especially in those who show love through action rather than words. At any age, but especially in later years, trusting these quiet truths can be the key to deeper wisdom, safety, and connection.